Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show. And here on the Total Truth Show, we want to help you break free from the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media, all the disinformation and misinformation. We want to help you blast through all of that. And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
There is a great awakening happening in the world right now, and you're going to want to come along for the ride.
A lot of lies are coming to the surface. There's a lot of awakening happening, and as this awakening is happening, people realize they've been deceived for years. They've been lied to for years around all sorts of things. A lot of people have been blind to what has been going on in the world, and now they're starting to see. They're starting to see things in a different light.
Through our show, we want to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass. And we don't want you just to accept the things that we're saying. That goes for our guests as well. We want you to do the research for yourself. Get out there and start questioning things. Start looking things up. Do the research. We want to pave the way for a new awakened world. And we want you to come along for the ride. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Welcome to Total Truth Show episode 132. Oh my gosh. Huge. Today we're going to be chatting about recovering from trauma. Firstly, before we introduce our guest, Ken Kleinberg, my co-host, how are you going today?
I'm doing amazing.
Excellento, beautiful. Now, we do have a phenomenal guest today. Darcie Burtch is the host of the School of Hard Knocks podcast. She's an NLP practitioner, a clinical hypnosis practitioner, and a transformational coach dedicated to helping people get unstuck from trauma and grounded in their healing. After navigating her own journey through loss, caregiving, and personal transformation, Darcie now uses her voice, story, and tools to guide others toward emotional freedom, self-leadership, and lasting change. Through her work, she creates safe, empowering spaces where real conversations happen, helping people move from survival mode into a life of clarity, confidence, and purpose. Love that. Welcome to the show, Darcie.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us all the way from Wisconsin.
All the way from Wisconsin. Yeah, cheesehead country.
Oh, good. And it's nighttime, of course, for you. It's your Wednesday night at the moment, the 22nd of April, 2026. It's our Thursday here, almost lunchtime here in Australia. The next day, Thursday, 23rd of April. And fantastic to have you here. What's the weather like over there in the US at the moment?
You know, actually, it was really beautiful in Wisconsin today. Nicer than what we're used to for April.
Ah,
excellent. What about San Diego, Ken?
It started off really cloudy and gloomy this morning, and then all of a sudden, at around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, it just cleared right up. Beautiful blue skies, wonderful. It's probably a high of 67 today, not too warm either, so wonderful.
Oh, I love that. Well, I just flew back from Fiji last night, 9 days in Fiji, and the weather there was mostly stunning with a bit of rain. And now I've landed on the Gold Coast, and it's absolutely glorious, glorious day. Blue skies, just a few little clouds, absolutely stunning. So we are very blessed indeed with where we are in the world. There are parts of the world right now where there's a hell of a lot of trauma going on. And, of course, we have seen a lot of upheaval happen in the world of late, particularly with what's going on in Iran, and we know what's been going on in Ukraine. There's a lot of wars. There's a lot of bombs going off all over the place. A lot of people are starving. A lot of people have no shelter, no food, no electricity, no water. And so really, if you have any of those things, then, you're doing okay. However, trauma is our topic today, the truth about recovering from trauma and whatever that trauma looks like for you. And it's interesting how many people in first world countries have so much trauma despite still having, food, shelter, water, all those things. They still have trauma in their lives from other things. So, Darcie, I'm very curious why you chose this topic today.
Well, fortunately, but unfortunately for myself, I have led a life of trauma. All the way from my earliest memory at 4 years old, up to 6.5 years ago when my father became a survivor of a workplace shooting. So there's been a lot of things in the middle, but for the majority of my life, about a solid 40 years, I have walked through some pretty heavy trauma.
Well, yeah, I mean, shootings, people have guns in their hands. You've got crazy people with guns. That is definitely a concern. And it only takes one mad moment for someone to pull out a gun and start shooting people, as we've seen many times around the world, not just in America, but right around the world. And, the whole, gun debate is an interesting one, that it's interesting in Fiji, for example, the police don't have guns in Fiji, which I found very, very interesting. And one of the things that the government said as a way to control the stray dog population was to arm police officers with guns so they can shoot all these stray dogs. This is their solution to the stray dog problem. It's like, what the hell? Like, honestly, sometimes I think government, which government actually means mind control, but sometimes there ain't no mind going on behind this government at all. Like they just don't think. They're just complete like psychopaths, half these people. Like, what the hell? These people are meant to be protecting us. They're meant to be, we pay the government, we pay our taxes so that they look after the population. And more what's happening is we have trauma, we have a collective trauma around the BS that the government dishes out right around the world. There is corruption around the world with government. And I'm sure there are some amazing people who are politicians out there. I'm sure there are some that probably enter with the best intentions, and before too long, they might end up corrupt like the rest of them. However, generally speaking, we have lost trust. We have lost faith in our government, which has led to a lot of trauma. And we've seen right through the whole pandemic, how much did people trust the government to get the injection, that lethal jab, which ended up leading to a lot of deaths around the world and a lot of trauma because, for example, my parents haven't been the same since they got jabbed. My dad got shingles. My mum's now in a nursing home, dementia. She can't walk. And I'm sure that the jab has had an effect on that as well, because mum's feet her legs swelled up at one point, which was a big side effect of the jab, is that people had heart issues, which then led to swelling of the legs and things like that. So very, very interesting what's been going on post pandemic. Now there's this collective trauma going on, and now all this other pressure of fuel prices going up, almost doubling now with what's been going on in Iran. And now that's affecting cost of living. And so now there's this people getting into this sort of scarcity mode. So Darcie, what are some things that you would say to people who right now are feeling the pinch, who are really struggling out there? Where would you start with these people?
Well, I mean, my biggest thing is we cannot always control the things that are happening, but we can always control our reaction and how we respond. I think obviously there's a lot of chaos that's going on all across the whole entire world right now, but bringing more chaos isn't going to help the situation. So staying calm and trying to stay level-headed, getting yourself upset about something isn't going to drop anything down to where you want it to be. In fact, it's going to make everything worse. Now your blood pressure is going up and the people around you are getting frustrated because they're already frustrated, but now you're frustrated. And it turns into like this big kabuckle of, let's all just maybe take a deep breath. I don't think enough people even stop for a second to take a deep breath because there's so many things flying at us at one time. It's overload. People are overloaded. But this is why it's so important to try to stay grounded. It's important to try to stay grounded. It's important to try to stay in the here and the now and not force ourselves so much to think about the future. Right now, just breathe, because we don't know what's going to happen over the course of the next 6 months in particular, so we just gotta breathe through it and stay grounded with where we're at.
Yes, totally love that. And the simple things in life are often the best. I spent 9 days in Fiji and it was wonderful. I connected with, baby little sea crabs, these tiny little crabs, these little shells, and they go from shell to shell, some of them, and they'd fight each other over the different shells that they wanted to inhabit. And, just being there with these little seashells, these tiny little crabs in these little seashells was such a beautiful thing to just lose myself in the moment and connect with these little sea crabs. And then at the same time I went to Animals Fiji, and I during my stay in Fiji, and I connected with the kittens and the dogs in this shelter that they're looking to rehome, or they're desexing to find homes for these beautiful animals. And just connecting with animals or connecting with nature. I went through this garden where we looked at all these beautiful orchids and these cycads and these ferns and these palm trees and all these amazing nature is extraordinary. All around us we have such magnificence, and what we focus on does grow. And as you say, we can't control all this BS and crap that's going on in the world. And the challenge we have through this lifetime is to be the best versions of ourselves, to live our lives most fully, the best way we can, despite all the craziness, right? To find calm amongst the chaos. That's the big challenge. And coming back to your breath is a great way to do that, and connecting with nature and connecting with family. And since I've been back, I've connected with my cats and my chickens, and just those moments, connecting with people. I went to a networking event this morning and I connected with people, and I saw people in a different light, and I thought, everyone's got a story, everyone's here to teach us something. There's something we can learn from everyone, or that we can teach everyone something. I think there's a reason we connect with the people we connect with through life, and there's so much we can be joyful about in life. It's just what we focus on will grow. And for those that woke up thinking, oh, this sucks, that sucks, whinge about everything. And I've had my moments. I tell you, I've had a lot of moments where I've whinged about things, but then I remind myself, I go, right, Aldwyn, what are you grateful for today? I snap myself out of it and then come back around. Ken, what about you? What have you done to help overcome your trauma you've had in life?
Well, for one thing, I spend time with my Lord and Savior. Yep, definitely. And recently, some of those deeper times have been when I go on a walk, kind of / jog around the block. There's a couple trails around here that I've been able to go on, and it's just kind of like been deeper time to connect with Him and to really chat and talk with Him. And yeah, so mainly that's kind of that's my grounding. My other grounding is the gym. Plain and simple, going to the gym. But I just stay grounded in Him. I just stay close to Him. I communicate with Him. I'm reading His Word. I'm praying. I'm doing all the things there. And that, to me, especially right now, like, that's a big part of my grounding.
Yeah, faith is so important. And it is one of the 13 principles in the book Think and Grow Rich, which created more millionaires than any other book out there. Faith is so important, whatever your faith is. And interestingly, in Fiji, I visited this temple, this Indian temple, that they just repainted the whole temple. It took them a year to repaint this temple. And like, they painted the whole ceiling of this temple in Fiji. This is in Nandi, a major part of Fiji. You look up at the ceiling and there's so much intricate detail. I was looking up at the ceiling going, oh my gosh, it took them a year to paint this place. Like the devotion and dedication, when you see the monks doing their little sand art, and, so Fiji has their Hindu temples, they have the Muslim, they have the mosques, and then they have their churches there, right? And they have all, and I said to one of the Fiji guys, I said, isn't it interesting? You've got all these different religions that have different faith. How do they all get along? Oh yeah, they all get along. They're all good, so there's certain parts of the world that all the different religions, and no matter what your faith is, they all get along. And then other parts that they just can't wait to fight each other because they want to be right that their religion or their faith is the faith and everyone else is doomed, or no good, or somehow inferior in some way because you have a different belief or a different faith. I find that very, very interesting around the world. So yes, very, very interesting. I love that about faith, Ken. Darcie, what's your faith like?
Well, I was so happy to hear Ken say that, because that is a huge tool in what I call my trauma toolbox. is relying on the Lord. I mean, the way that He has walked me through the last 6 years, 6.5 years in particular, of the trauma that I've gone through has been beyond what you can even imagine happening. Like my dad passed away, unfortunately, a little over 6 months ago. And although statistically textbooks say I should be like this mess and this wreck and all of that, I've actually found a lot of joy in the last 6 months. When you're really close in your walk with God, you do view a lot of this stuff a lot differently than maybe people that are walking a different walk. So, I mean, I agree with everything Ken said. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your father. May I ask how he passed and what age?
Well, that was part of my latest trauma. My dad was a survivor of a workplace shooting that happened October 3rd, 2019. As a result of that shooting, from the way he fell, he did receive a traumatic brain injury. He had spent a little over 2 years in brain rehab, two different facilities, trying to regroup, as much of himself as we could get back. And he did come home to my husband and myself, and we took care of him for 3 years and 8 months. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, full care. He was more physically disabled than mentally disabled. So, I mean, we did getting up, bathroom, showering, feeding, PT, OT, speech. We literally were everything that he needed to have any type of quality of life at all. And he passed away at the very young age of 66. So he had just turned 66 in July. He was 60 when he was shot. And it just was God's timing. It just was. I mean, his heart just stopped in the middle of the night, and unfortunately I had to find him the next morning like that. So
Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that. And, navigating that, it's interesting that a third of people die by the age of 65 is the statistics, and 90% of people die with regrets. And then you think about those, people, for example, who've lost a child in a stillbirth, and how traumatic that can be with it. They've carried this child, or the mother's carried the child for 9 months, and they have a baby. They're so excited about having this baby, and there's dead. I mean, imagine the trauma of that as an example. And yet your dad had 66 great years on the planet. You could view it that way, or, you could there's many ways you could view that situation. And so for you, faith was really big for you. I know someone, recently, Elizabeth Ray, actually, she lost her son, Kerwin Ray, 14 months ago. And she actually spoke at our recent impact change retreat for entrepreneurs that we just did on the Gold Coast recently. And she was talking about the trauma of losing her son, and that the work she does now is a legacy for her son, Kerwin, who was Australia's leading business strategist. He was a phenomenal guy. And she talked about how she saw Kerwin come to her through butterflies. She saw these butterflies that when she would reach out to Kerwin and say, show me a sign that you're there, and this butterfly would keep coming to her. And so she knows that the spirit lives on, and we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So for you, when your father passed, how did you deal with the trauma of that? Like you said, you had your faith, but what did that actually look like? Did you cry it out for a while? Did you journal about it? Like, how did you navigate that to come to a place of peace for yourself?
Well, I gave myself grace. And I allowed whatever I needed to do in the moment to be done. So, I think as women in particular, we pride ourselves in wearing a superwoman cape. And we can do all of the things all of the time. We can be the mom and the sister and the wife and the grandma and the co-worker, the friend and the sister and the auntie and it's like, holy shit, there's so much going on here. It's like, oh my gosh. And I've done that my whole entire life. Superwoman cape, I can do everything. And I knew I could not superwoman myself through this. So it was 3 days after my dad passed away, and I couldn't even sit in our living room because his recliner was there. And it just was, he should be here. He should be here. This should have never even happened in the first place. So on the third day, I was like, okay, I need to go downstairs. And I came downstairs, and my husband was playing Led Zeppelin, one of my dad's all-time faves. And I could just feel like, don't look to the right, because he's supposed to be sitting there and he won't be. And I walked out in the garage and started doing the whole thing. You're fine. You're fine. Everything's fine. And then I said, What the F do you mean you're fine? You're not fine. Your dad just died 3 days ago. Like, I found my dad. I thought I could save him. I gave him CPR and respirations until the paramedics got here. You're not okay, and that's okay. So I let it out. And it was like this little girl scream cry to where my husband came running, thinking something was happening. And it was just me, just allowing the grief to happen. Like we get stuck in these loops where we just got to push through. I got to get back to work. Things have to happen. This is just how what it is, what it is. It's not, it is what it is. This is the worst thing that could have possibly have happened in my life. This is the worst thing that has happened in my life so far. So when you're going through that, you have got to treat yourself kindly. Christmas is my thing. My husband and I put up 15 different Christmas trees in our house. I mean, we are basically the Griswolds. We have competition with our neighbors. If they think they're putting extra lights out, we're putting extra lights out. And we went hard with it again this year. And I put up all of the Christmas stuff and did all of the stuff. And it didn't even matter. It was like we had everything out and it didn't even matter. And I couldn't even celebrate it. I couldn't go to my sister's house for Christmas. Like I could not force myself to get off of the sofa. I would not watch a Christmas movie on Christmas Day. It was just too raw that my dad wasn't there, and I wasn't mad. I just knew whatever my mind's telling me I have to do, if it's not harmful to myself or harmful to anybody else, I'm going to do it because this is my grief journey. This isn't anybody else's grief journey. And in this process, in the last 6 months, I've learned even more tools that are helpful for this level, right? Because there's different levels of trauma. This is a pretty intense high end that I'm on, where I've had to create an extra tool to help me with some of the things that I was going through. But it's just love yourself. Love yourself enough to feel it so you don't have to feel it down the road when it circles back, because it's going to circle back.
Yeah, I feel you there. And everyone deals with trauma in their own way. Some people probably never get over it. There is something known as heartbreak, and where a loved one will actually die due to the heartbreak. And we see this with birds, actually. I've heard of this with birds, where one bird will die. They're two lovers, these birds. One bird will die, the other one will lie next to it and die next to it. Like this kind of thing happens. And people do die from heartbreak. Like my uncle, for example, in Turkey, he died, and then my auntie died 11 days after that. They were married for 60 years. She's younger than him, but she died 11 days after that. And you hear about this a lot with people who've been together for a long time, that one will die and the other one will die of heartbreak. And then you hear of relationships situations where a partner dies and the other partner ends up living for many years later as well. So it's all about your perspective about how you deal with things. And, I think about a trauma that I had where I lost my beautiful cat, Tiger. I know Ken just lost his little cat, and this is a type of trauma in another way. I also had a near-death experience where I got swept out to sea, and that was another trauma again. But just looking at the cat situation, where I had this cat for 15 years, little rescue cat called Tiger, and when he died, I remember crying and crying. Like, this is how I dealt with it, is I let it out of the body. I cried and cried. And then what I did is I wrote out all the things I wanted to say to him, to thank the cat for, for being in my life, and for, all the joy. And I know this is just a cat for a lot of people, but this is like a family member. When you have a pet that you love, it's like a family member. And then the other thing we did is we put a towel, we wrapped up Tiger in a towel and put him in a cardboard box, and then everyone in the house wrote little sayings, wrote little things on the box, and then we did a burial ceremony for the cat as well. It was sort of like this whole process of letting go. I found crying it out, journaling it out, being thankful for the great time we had together, being grateful for the journey that we had. It was 15 years I had this cat. It was highly traumatized when I got him at a year and a half. I adopted him. Highly traumatized, highly anxious cat. And by the end of it, he was the most loving, beautiful cat. And then, interestingly, after that burial ceremony, I actually invited the lady who I first adopted adopted that cat from, Tiger. She came to the little burial ceremony, the little sort of funeral service, I guess, in a way, out the back of the house. She came along to that, and without me knowing, she sent my name off to a cat protection group, another charity, and she let them know that I'd just lost my cat. And the next thing, I get this text message from this cat protection group saying, look, we're so sorry you've lost your cat, but there's this other one that really needs help. And he's been in a cattery for a month. Would you be open to having another cat? And I thought to myself, well, I don't know if I'm really ready for another cat right now. And then I thought about this poor cat in the cattery. I thought, okay, I'll just go have a look. So I drove 45 minutes out to this cattery. And of course, I fell in love with the cat. I brought the cat home. His name's Pablo. And now he's been with me a few years, and he is the most adorable, loving cat now. But again, he was in a cattery for a month. He was abandoned, had a lot of issues, a 5-year-old male cat. And now he follows me around like a dog. Like he sleeps with me, he cuddles me. He's just the most adorable, loving animal. And while Pablo will never replace Tiger, it's now redirected my attention to give my love somewhere else. And so while you will never have another father as such, as far as your blood father, there is the Father God, right? And there is other father figures that you will have in your life, no doubt, who will take you under their wing and who will be there for you, no doubt, right? And I truly believe we are spiritual beings having a human experience. None of us get out of here alive. Right? None of us are going to get out of here. Like, we miss the fact that we don't have that physical being in front of us. However, I truly believe our ancestors are with us. They are with us energetically, spiritually. They are here with us. We just don't see them. We can't cuddle them, but we can definitely feel them. I truly believe that. And having that faith in that and having that feeling there, because I know I've felt it. I felt the presence of my ancestors. I felt like, some people say angels, guides, whatever you want to say, whatever you call it, right? Spirits, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know, whatever you call it, right? There's definitely some energies around you. Some energies are light energies, some energies are dark energies. And you want to be careful, as they say, the demons or the angels, or, you want to be careful of the dark energies and be rid of the dark energies and allow the light energies to come in and to guide you and to protect you. And, because, my dad always says, God has a plan for you. He always said to me, God has a plan for you. And sometimes we don't know what that plan is. And I do believe God has a plan for everybody. And we never know when our last moment will be on the planet. We don't know at any age. We know a third of people die by 65. We don't know when we're going to go. Apparently back in the day, they used to live to over 200 back in the day. And in the blue zone areas around the world, they live to 100 plus or whatever. But really, at the end of the day, one day, sooner or later, none of us are going to be here. So how do you recover from trauma in this lifetime, in this version of reality that we have right now? How do you recover from the trauma that you're experiencing, whether it's with the death of a loved one or a pet, or whether it's grieving the loss of a job, or whether it's grieving that you made a decision you wish you hadn't made, or whatever it is? This trauma can look many different ways for many different people. Now, what are some ways that you can get empowered around whatever's going on in your life? And sometimes we feel like we have absolutely no control over. However, what are the learnings from that, and how can we move forward in the best way possible?
So I call it my trauma toolbox. So it's this trauma toolbox, and I always joke about it. It probably doesn't look like maybe Ken's toolbox, or mine is pink and it has sparkle on it. But it's got really great tools inside of it, because we have to have something tangible, at least that we can visualize, that we're able to grab onto when something's happening. So for me, a couple of them, obviously, because my faith is so strong, I reach for the Bible. My husband and I are 222 days into reading the Bible. We've gone through 23 books now. So the Bible is a big one. Writing something down did not always work for me. The only thing that worked for me is if I wrote it down and then I lit it on fire and watched it kind of dissipate, because really charting all of this almost with my dad, to me, would have felt too painful. Music for me is huge. I mean, anything, not something that makes you want to go out and like dance around, but something that makes you put your praise hands up, lets you feel centered again, lets you know that there's something bigger than you out there. I had to actually create a tool after my dad died because the visual of that morning, even the sound that I had made, because the scream was just so like animalistic almost, because it was terrifying, right? Even though he was smiling because I know he saw God. It was still, I was actually mad because I was like, why are you smiling? And I'm trying to save you. Like, what's going on? I was remember being so mad about that, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I said to my husband, I have got to figure out another tool because I'm listening to the music. I'm taking showers instead of baths, rinsing the things down. I'm doing all of the things. I can't stop thinking about my dad that morning and what he looked like. So I thought, I have to get that out of my head. And I started thinking about movies that I like. I really like Beverly Hills Cop. I think Axel Foley is hilarious. There's that one part where he mocks the one cop and says, "We're not going to put the fall for the banana in the tailpipe trick." And to me, that's so funny for some reason. And the next thing you know, I realized I wasn't thinking about my dad that morning anymore. I was having a visual of that movie. Same thing with Pretty Woman. That's one of my favorite movies too. So I start thinking about scenes from movies, and it takes the vision from that scary movie that was playing in my head to now an actual movie that I can play in my head. So having these tools and something you can actually grab for, but you have to be willing to do it. Some of us kind of enjoy that corkscrew. Some of us enjoy the rabbit hole. Some people enjoy like, oh, I just had that thought today, but now my whole day is over. I actually used to pride myself on wearing the Superwoman cape, like I said. Now I pride myself on my reboot time. I can go from having a really bad moment and be back to living my life in 20 minutes or less. This is because I'm using tools that are getting me out of that moment, but because I want to do it. I don't want to be stuck there. That's what we talk about on the podcast. This is the place that we become unstuck from trauma and grounded in healing. When you're grounded in healing, you don't want to be anywhere but there, but you have to make that conscious decision to use tools in order to stay there.
Yeah, I love that.
I think one of the, for me, so this was interesting. So, I lost my baby February 6th of this year. And I was just taking him to the vets on a day because he was showing some signs that I was kind of questioning. It wasn't anything serious, and I didn't think it would turn out anything serious. Well, by the time x-rays came back and all the things happened, we're having the discussion. And that was not something that either my mom or I expected. And I think in some aspects she kind of took it in the beginning harder than I did, a lot harder. And me, on the other hand, I find myself like I had these moments, like moments when I would just wanted to cry and I wanted to release. It wasn't happening. I couldn't get myself to get in that moment. Instead, what's happened with me is I will have moments where it just comes at me. And maybe I'm at the gym, maybe a song will come on or something like that, and it's just the tone of the song that puts my mind in that state, and I get flashes of memories. And then there's people in the room, so I don't want to sit there and break down and cry, so I'm holding all that inside. And I'll never forget that one of the most recent situations that happened to me, it was, I don't know, about a month ago. And it was on Saturday, and it was my leg day in the gym, and I had that situation happen, and I was in the room that had all the leg equipment and everything else. And I was sitting there, and I was fighting with everything in me to hold back the tears. And then and then, so what I then ended up doing is I rushed my way through the workout to get out of there because I knew I needed to release. And I went in the locker room, went in the bathroom stall, and I was sitting on the toilet. So I know a little bit of TMI, but whatever. And I had finished. Like, I was done. And I was getting ready to get up. And all of a sudden, the wave hit me. I sat back down and put my head down on the rail that was right next there to the toilet. And I just let go for like 5 minutes. And I was grateful that at this particular gym, they have huge, gigantic fans in the bathroom, because that gym has no AC or anything like that. So they got fans everywhere. And so I was grateful that there were 2 big fans on full blast to give white noise, so that I was sure that nobody was going to hear me. But it's like those things, like it comes in waves for me. And I've always found that really interesting. Like, why in the moments that I really did want to cry, why couldn't I? And why does it come when I least expect it? I just do find it interesting. But it took me a while before I knew I wanted to write some stuff down in my journal about what I remember about him and the good times and everything else. And it took me a while to get ready to write those things down. It also took me a while before I finally got some photo prints of him. That took me a little bit before I was ready for that. And I still have my moments. I got his ashes, so I've got a little thing set up over here on the bottom corner of my bed. It's like a little blanket thing where he was laying, the last couple of months, where he would lay. His ashes are there, his leash is there, his brush is there, a little bottle that I kept of his hair out of the brush that I collected is there, whiskers in a bag that I found randomly and that I saved throughout his life are over there, all in the corner. A lot of times that corner over there is a comfort to me, but there are times where I look at that corner and it's empty because I'm missing the physical. So I mean, there's a whole bunch. It's still kind of raw, and I'm wondering when is the day when I'm going to be ready to get another one. And, I don't know. Do I want another cat? Yes. Am I ready for one? No, not quite yet. It's still a little raw. But I think my moments of dealing with it is, so when those random moments do come up, letting myself go, embracing the moment and feeling all the feels and not avoiding it. So yeah, it's rough because he was with me for 17 years. He was a very unique cat. I had very carefully trained him in the beginning of when I first had him, for the first 3 or 4 years that I had him, maybe a little longer than that. Leash trained him, everything else. And I did crazy training with him in the beginning. Like, I kind of wanted to break a little bit of that free will spirit that most cats had and kind of establish my dominance as being master. And so in the beginning, when I disciplined him or punished him for something, a lot of times what I would do, and it's something that I read through a bunch of articles and different things like that before I implemented any of this, but what I used to do for his training back in the early days when I had him for the first few years is whenever he did something, like he'd be cuddling with me and he'd be in the moment and he'd be wanting it. And then all of a sudden he'd reach over and bite me. And so I wanted to let him know that wasn't okay. Not in that aspect. A love bite, that's totally different. And I allowed for that. And so when he did that, I would take him and I would put him on the floor. I would turn him over on his back and I would take my hand and I would hold him there. Not rough, but I would hold him there until he stopped fighting me and he surrendered. All I had to do is do that a few times. And eventually, like, that kind of broke enough of his spirit that, he saw me as master. And then as the years went on, as I continued having him and just as a companion, not only do I feel like that training kind of like started bonding us together, but as the years went on, the bond just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper between us. He would follow me everywhere. He was very attentive. He knew certain language and words. Like, he knew things like, "You want kitty num nums?" And as soon as you would say that, like, oh yeah, he totally knew what that meant. He knew how to open, he was just very intuitive, very attentive. And so, yeah, it was a little bit of a rough when he passed. And I think this is the first time on this show that I've actually been ready to kind of go into a little bit of depth with it. I remember when it first happened and we had a show a week and a half later or something like that. I didn't want to talk about it. And Aldwyn brings it up. And I'm just like, why did you bring it up? I don't want to talk about it right now.
Yes.
But yeah, so it does show that there is healing going on, that the fact that I'm able to actually share about it and talk about it. But I don't know if any of that made sense. And I don't know why I went down that path. Maybe because Aldwyn shared her story, but that's kind of, but so that is a question that I would ask you, Darcie. Why is it that when I want to cry, I don't cry most of the time? And when I don't want to cry and I'm in a place or a situation where I don't want all that, it's like a freaking fight and battle. Like, why does it seem like the wires are reversed?
Because you cannot force emotion like that. You can't. It's not going to be a genuine feeling for you. Like if you're there was this episode of Everybody Loves Raymond that I'll never forget, where Deborah wanted a break and Ray left and then spied through the window and she was crying. And he thought, oh my gosh, what did we do to get Deborah so upset? And when he asked her, she said, nothing. Sometimes I just like to have a cry. Sometimes I just feel like I have to have a cry. Okay, well, maybe it's because the kids were crazy that whole week and the house and all of that stuff. But when it is something so in depth like this, something that's so real and so raw, you can't force it, because you can't force healing. You can't force yourself to get through those things. That's why when you're in your natural habitat and you're not even thinking about it, you're more receptive to hearing something that's going to make you think about that special animal, person. I lost a dog. I think this is a very real pain. I remember when I had to put my Daisy down and oh my gosh, like I was a wreck. It's an absolutely horrible thing to go through. What really I wish that people could normalize is, if something strikes us somewhere, that feeling that we have to hide away. Like if you would have sat there, leg day, sitting there, getting ready to work your quads or whatever you're doing, and you needed to cry it out for 2 or 3 minutes, I wish you would have had the opportunity to do that. I think that when we're in public or we're around people we're not comfortable with, we shove this stuff down because we're so afraid of what other people are going to think. Who cares what other people are going to think? Like whatever journey you're on, it's your journey to go as you feel like you have to go. I mean, we as a people, I don't care what country we're from, what color we're from, what religion we have, we are human beings. And if some lady was standing next to me at a Target and just randomly started crying, I wouldn't be like, what the heck is wrong with this lady, and coldly turn away from her. Like we should be more intuitive to what people are going through around us. And if somebody's having an emotional moment, be there for that person. But like in your situation, you were like, no, I'm out. I need to go someplace because I'm not breaking down inside of the gym. And especially for men in particular.
And then it happens on the toilet, of all places.
It's probably where you were most relaxed in that in that day. But that your emotions came out.
It was also so I know it was probably like, what are people gonna think? That was part of it, but it was also I don't want somebody to ask me what's wrong. I don't want to talk about it. That was also going through my mind. I remember that. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it with anybody, because I was at that breaking point, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about it with anybody, so I can't break down here, so that's.
But are you projecting? Are you projecting that somebody would come up to you and say, what's going on, what's wrong, instead of, could somebody have potentially came up and said, hey dude, whatever's going on, like, you need to talk about something, do you need a tissue, do you need a break, do you need a prayer, whatever it is. I think we project a lot of what we think people are going to do, and that stops us from doing what needs to be done. Your emotion coming out is such an important thing, and to stop that from happening is going to hinder it. I don't care where it is. Just try it the next time. If you're in the gym, if you're in the car, if you're on a walk, whatever it is you're doing.
Ooh,
and if that moment strikes you, have the moment. And nothing bad is going to happen. In fact, something good is going to happen, because you're going to have a release that you probably really need to have.
Yeah, so true. As Tanya says, Tanya's put some lovely comments. Hey, Tanya, good to see you. She says, yes, so true, Darcie. And Tanya says, so feeling you and this to you, Ken. Tanya sending her love. She said, so long, that is huge. That's the 17 years you had your baby cat. Deep relationship. Yeah, absolutely. And Tanya says, grief comes out whenever. I just cry then, no matter where. And when I don't want to talk to anyone, I am not, and no one even approaches me. So that's her perspective of how she deals with grief, that it comes out whenever. And interestingly, as you're sharing, and thank you so much for sharing, Ken, it takes a lot to share about a trauma, and about, and a lot of people don't want to share about their traumas because it's deeply personal. And it does, sometimes when you share about it, sometimes it brings out even more emotion when you're sort of thinking of, whatever you've got trauma over, you think about the person or the pet or whatever it is that you have trauma over. And sometimes it can bring up shame. It can bring up guilt. It can, like, I know when my cat died, I'd been traveling for a month before my cat died, and I left the cat in the care of people at my house who were feeding it and giving it water, etc. And then they basically said to me, on my last trip as I went away, they said the cat's not eating much and it's not drinking much, and we're not sure what's going on. And it probably was grieving the fact that I wasn't there, partly, so there was a part of it, because when I came back from my trip away, and my cat was lying in the grass out the back in the sun, and I lifted my cat up in my arms, and it was really frail. And I remember lifting it up and bringing it upstairs, and it just died in my arms. It was horrible, right? And it was really, those memories come back sometimes, and you have this guilt that, oh my gosh, it's because I went away, it's because I wasn't there for him, or, like these thoughts come up, oh, if I did this or if I did that, maybe things would have been different. If I, and then people said to me later, well, when cats get older, they don't drink water. They're receptors for drinking water. Like humans, as humans get older, we need to actually drink more water because our body doesn't tell us we're thirsty. And so with older cats, apparently you need to syringe water into their mouths to help them live longer. Otherwise their livers will fail or their kidneys will fail.
That's
and they'll
one of the
die.
reasons why my cat lasted to 17, because I started that 5 years earlier. I gave him water orally.
There you go. And see, I didn't know that at the time. So there was a part of me feeling really bad about that. Like I could have, helped my cat live a few extra years if I'd just given it more water, or if I'd syringed water into its mouth. If only I'd known. And, the cat was 1.5 years when I got him. That was Tiger. And I had him for 15 years. We never once saw a vet in 15 years. 15 years. Wow. He stayed at the one house. I never took him away from the house to go to be cared anywhere else. He was always here at the house for 15 years, and he had an amazing life. And I guess that's the thing, is that you could always have these conversations, like Darcie with the dad as well. Oh, if only that hadn't happened. Like I think with my mum as well. My mum, a week before Christmas, 1 year and a bit ago, she has a fall under the care of a carer. The carer basically doesn't see my mum. She turns around. She said that she was looking at a parsley plant when she's meant to be caring for her mum. She gets up, and next thing, mum's on the ground. Well, mum didn't just fall over by herself. Like, she knocked my mum over, but we can't prove it because mum has dementia. And then from that moment on, 3 months in a hospital bed, and she now can't walk. She's, she cannot walk, but we know she can walk, but because of the dementia and because of the domino effect that can happen sometimes when something happens, like the trauma with your dad, Darcie, something happens and it ends up leading to this domino effect of other things happening that actually end up being worse than the original situation. So, for example, my mum got knocked over. She broke her arm. Her legs were fine. We were doing half-hour walks before this happened. Half-hour walk, no problem. My mum was fine on her feet. 3 months in a hospital bed with her legs up in the air and not enough physio, she forgets how to walk. And so now she goes into hospital with a broken arm and comes out and can't walk. So I think of but you think to yourself, well, there's so much you cannot control. We did the best we could with what we knew at the time. And that's the thing, is that we have to come to this place of, look, I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. There's a certain amount of things we just cannot control. My dad had been caring for my mum for 10 years. She never once had a fall. We decided to give dad a break. He's now 88 years of age. He's had 4 heart attacks, prostate cancer, diabetes. We give my dad a break, right? We said, well, let's get a carer in. Let's take a bit of pressure off dad. And a month after that happens, mum has a fall under the care of this carer, right? So, of course, there's all this stuff coming up like, oh, we just shouldn't have got the carer. We shouldn't have done this. We shouldn't have done it. We should have done, we should all over ourselves, right? And the thing is, we can't change any of that now. The fact is, mum's in a nursing home. She can't walk. No matter how much we've tried, we cannot get her out of bed. And people say, even like, we've had this little walking thing to try and encourage her to get up. And say, but what if she falls again? At least she's comfortable in bed. Like, what if she falls and breaks something? She's got bone density issues. She's frail. Like, what, there's all these sort of things that you think, well, what if, what could have been, what should have been? And sometimes you just got to let go and go, okay, what happened. It ran its course. You've done the best you can for your pet, for your family member, for whatever. You've done the best you can with what you knew at the time. And yes, of course, there's going to be times when you think about those memories of when those people or those animals were alive, and you're going to have moments of sadness. And this is what I've noticed in my grief and trauma that I've had over the years, is when a flashback comes. I have a flashback of my cat Tiger, of times when we were cuddling, or times when, I'm working on my computer and Tiger's trying to distract me, going, give me attention, get off that computer and give me some attention. You think of all these moments, like your cat would always go across, right, Ken? It's like, feeding time. If you go back to the previous Total Truth shows, you'll see Ken's cat would walk across, and you see the tail come on the screen.
Yeah, because over here used to sit his water cups. He never drank water out of a bowl. He always had to have a cup. And so his cups used to sit right here. There used to be a little red cup right here that he would walk across to go drink out of. Yep.
Yeah, and so all those the memories come back, and you think of the times. And I looked back at a photo of my mum, dad, and I the last time we actually went walking together. I didn't know it was going to be the last time we're going to go walking together, but thankfully I got a photo of it, and now that's a beautiful memory that I have of when I used to go for a walk with my mum and dad. And little things like that. And yes, the tears will come at any moment. And I think there's a big thing with this whole Boys Don't Cry. Yes, it's a great Cure song. I love the song. Boys Don't Cry. It's a great song. But I think what's happened for a long, long time is we've been shut down by our parents, by people. Oh, don't cry. Oh, don't cry. Like people told, don't cry, don't get angry. My dad used to say anger is danger. And so I suppressed my anger, which ended up leading to depression, because actually what you suppress will actually come out in other ways. As you've said, Ken, right? There's times you haven't wanted to cry, and then the other times the crying will just happen, because you can only suppress it for so long before it has to come out of your body, because the healing is in the feeling. That we've got to feel stuff, and we've got to let it out of our bodies. I truly believe we've got to release it somehow. If we don't release it, we'll end up with dis-ease in the body, which will end up leading to things like cancer and heart disease and all the other stuff, right? Yes. So you have the feeling for a reason, and it is so that we can heal. And this is what makes human beings so special, is that we have feelings and we have emotions, and it's why robots will never take over human to human connection. Robots will never take over heart-to-heart connection, as much as certain evil elites are pushing this agenda right now, of this transhuman agenda, right? Which, of course, AI has a lot of positives about it. I'm not knocking AI. I'm just saying we crave this human-to-human, heart-to-heart, human to animal. Even the pet relationship is a human to animal. We are human animals anyway, right? It's a heart-to-heart connection with another living being. that we crave now with another living being. And animals are so much more intelligent in many ways than human beings. Just because we don't speak the same language, right, does not mean animals are not intelligent, and does not mean we can treat them like second-class citizens as we do as human beings, right? And everyone's on their own journey with that too. So I'm all about practicing more kindness and compassion to self and to others. And Ken's just run off to the bath. He's going to release it another way. I'll just take Tanya's saying, one of my cats lying here with me. Oh, that's beautiful, Tanya. And Tanya's just put a few more comments here. I'll just go to some of Tanya's comments and we'll have a chat with you again, Darcie, here. Tanya says, I always felt of controlling or training a cat is similar to controlling emotions. Is that maybe part of it? I love hearing from you about how you are grieving. And also as a man, where culture taught boys don't cry. Yes, there we go. So much in your sharing. Thank you. That was for Ken. Thank you, Tanya. And Tanya says, horrible but a blessing, Aldwyn. Hey, always grief involved with death. The animals taught me we are not allowed to interfere. Always guilt, and they taught me it would have been different if it should have. Guilt is always there, but we cannot interfere when they want to leave their body. Well, that's right. When a soul is ready to move on, I guess
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. You can't hear me. Okay, well, that doesn't help. Okay, maybe log. We had some tech issues before Darcie came on, and maybe hop off and on again, Darcie. I'll just put a private message in the chat here. Guilt, I meant. Tanya's saying guilt, I meant. Yeah, I think just hop off and on again. She can't hear me, but here we go. Now we've got tech issues. Soon there's going to be a lot of trauma for people over the tech issues that we're having. Okay, I'm just going to message in the private chat for Darcie to exit and come back in. And now Ken's coming back into the screen here. Okay, so here we go. You see, life throws challenges like tech issues. So Darcie just then, Ken, she couldn't hear us suddenly in the middle of the show. She was hearing us and then she couldn't hear us. So it's like a gremlin hopped into the show and affected the sound.
And I popped up at the right time too. So oops, sorry.
And popped off right then. Anyway, look, this is the thing, is that life throws curveballs. Okay, Tanya can hear us. Excellent. Thank you, Tanya. Life throws curveballs, right? Life throws curveballs. Sometimes the curveballs can lead to mass trauma for people. And sometimes they're like, okay, well, that happened. Now how do we deal with it, right? And that was a perfect example. That could have been one of the spirits coming in, actually. Like, seriously, we were talking about the spirits of our animals. And, hey, that could have been a spirit coming in going, I'm here. And, yes, we are real. You may not see us, but you'll feel us, or you'll soon not hear us, whatever it is. So Darcie, can you hear us?
Or the curveball that happened a couple shows ago where I don't remember what happened. Somebody popped off and then you got kicked off and I was left on the stream alone, and I'm like, I have no admin buttons. What do I do if I need to end this thing?
And then thankfully I hopped on again. So Darcie, you can hear us now?
I can hear you now, yep.
See, it's a perfect example. We're talking about recovering from trauma. Now, who here watching this show or tuning into this show right now just had a wee bit of trauma that came up for them, the fact that Darcie couldn't hear what we were saying? That would have brought up some stuff for people, right? Darcie, did you feel a bit of trauma coming up for you just then as that happened?
No. No.
Seriously, you've done a lot of work on yourself. Well done.
I have.
Well, I felt a little bit of heart palpitation because I was like, oh my gosh, Darcie's our guest. If she can't hear us, it's going to be really difficult to have a conversation. But welcome back, Darcie and Ken from the bathroom. Now, we were talking about crying and letting out our emotions, and sometimes you just need to go to the toilet, right? You just need to let it out in the bathroom. And in fact, I feel like I need to go to the bathroom now, but I will hold on just for a moment. But sometimes when you need to go, you really need to go to the bathroom. And sometimes if you don't go, you're going to do it in your pants. If you're ever at that stage in life, then definitely run to the bathroom, because it's your body telling you to get it out. Better out than in, right?
Oh my goodness.
So, Darcie, we've talked a lot now. Back to you. What would you like to say about this?
Well, I'm going to bring it all the way back, actually, back to a little bit of trauma, which I know we're talking about. So, I wanted to tell you because you had said like when you came home and you found your cat, you held Tiger, right? And he passed away and you felt so bad about it. The day that my dad had passed away when the coroner came, I remember crying and saying, "This isn't how it was supposed to go." Like I was supposed to be sitting there next to him, holding his hand as he went and letting him know that he was safe and it was okay. And she said, "Darcie, your dad passed away where he knew he was safe and he was loved." So I'm listening to you tell me this story, and your boy waited for mom to come home because you were his safe place. And that's not a bad thing. That's such a beautiful thing because he could have just went right up to heaven right before you got home, but he needed you to be his safe place. So I mean that's a beautiful thing to know that you had that kind of connection with Tiger like that. So I hope that brings you a little bit of comfort that he knew what was happening. He just wanted you there to love him. So that's all a part of the grief, is you just take these moments in and you have the moments and you let them pass and then you wait for the next one. That's why when we talk about being stuck in healing, we're getting grounded here, we're staying in the healing, because going backwards isn't really an option, and there's nothing we can change about anything. I said this to somebody today on a podcast. It doesn't matter how much I cry or how much I beg God, he's never going to say, "Geez, I didn't realize this was going to impact Darcie like this. Maybe I should put Bill back on Earth." I mean, that's not going to happen. We have to take these appropriate steps to move forward. And the more pain that we feel, which it sucks, but that just shows the connection. It shows the love, that the love was there. So, I mean, feeling it and crying and processing through it is such a healthy, perfect, beautiful way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I just, as you were sharing, the memory came back again of when I held Tiger in my arms and he literally, I brought him from outside inside, and then he just literally stretched out and let out this howl, which is how they die. I'd never seen a cat die before, yet alone in my arms. But basically he stretched out and just went and just let out this squeal. And that was him actually passing. And it was actually beautiful that he waited for me to come back and that he died in my arms. It was actually a beautiful way for him to go. But again, it was like, he's, cats can live till 20 plus, he lived to 16 and a half. And I was thinking, you just want them to have the longest, happiest life they can. But if they're not well, if they're not eating, if they're not drinking, and if, clearly I didn't know any better. And so now I tell everyone, if they've got an aging cat, make sure you get water into them, right? Make sure you feed them with water. And it was beautiful. And I was definitely not ready to get another cat, right? I thought it would have been disrespectful to Tiger to get another cat. I was like, no, I'm going to let this sit for a long time. I'm going to really grieve this out properly, make sure that, that I totally show respect for Tiger by not getting another cat. And the last thing on my mind was to get another cat. But when I heard about this cat in the cattery, and I thought, oh, this poor little soul, and they're like chalk and cheese, like Tiger was out there. He was a tabby, like he looked like a tiger. He was orange and white stripes like a tiger, and he was a very alpha male cat, whereas Pablo is the sweetest, gentlest, like completely different personalities, completely different cats, but to direct my love and attention towards Pablo, there's times, of course, I still think about Tiger, and I have those moments where I grieve and I smile and I think of all the memories with Tiger. But at the same time now, I've been able to rescue this beautiful other soul now, this beautiful Pablo. And he's been with me now, I think 2-3 years, and he's the most loving, beautiful cat. And I'm so glad that I adopted him now. Yes, it was only within a month, but it also helped with my recovering from the trauma. It helped because I now was able to direct my love and attention to another beautiful being that really wanted some love, and the longer I would have delayed in opening up to love again, essentially opening up to loving another being, the other being would have missed out on that. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't actually disrespectful in hindsight. It's just kind of how things flowed. And I didn't put myself forward to say I'm ready to adopt another cat. By all means, I was not ready. I didn't think I was ready, but actually it was a blessing in disguise taking on adopting another cat. It really, really helped the grieving process. It helped me recover from the trauma of losing a cat, because my attention was going towards the cat that I lost, as opposed to now my attention is going more towards a cat that really needs love, that really wants love. And in the cat really wanting love and me really wanting to give love and to receive love, it's this beautiful, energy that sort of came from that, if that's making sense. So what I would say to that is, if you feel you're not ready to take on another pet, perhaps consider going to your local animal shelter and having a look at the pets in there. And I just literally yesterday was at Animals Fiji. I did a live video at Animals Fiji, and they've got 50 dogs and cats in there that are looking for loving homes. And the people at the shelter were saying a shelter is not the solution. We want to find these pets loving homes. We want to find them places where they will have love in a home. And, what great gift to be able to give to a pet, to be able to adopt another beautiful being and to give them love. What a beautiful gift. And the longer we hold back, then we say, well, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to take on another cat or a dog. If you have capacity and if you are able to look after a dog or a cat for the life of that dog or the cat, then please do it, because there's so many that need good homes.
And I would agree. And, when my dog passed away, I didn't want to get another dog either. I thought there is no way that I can go through that again, but I was missing the snuggles and the cuddles and all of that. So, within a month, we adopted another dog, and it will never replace my Daisy. My Grace that we have will never replace my Daisy. And she knows that, but she also knows that Mama needed something, and now we have 3 crazy dogs. So I don't know how the heck that happened, but it did.
Yeah, and taking a trip to your local animal shelter, I tell you what, if you can rescue one out of there, because unfortunately a lot of them do get put down in a lot of these places because they just cannot look after them. Just about every animal shelter I know of, they are inundated with too many pets for the space that they have. They can only take so many pets, and unfortunately a lot of them do get killed, euthanized. In fact, I have heard that even the RSPCA in Australia, people think is such a good organization. Apparently, they put down at least 100 cats or dogs per week, at least that I know of. 100 per week. And so now there's a lot of these shelters that are looking to, to get the animals desexed so that they're not going to just keep breeding and breeding and breeding, right? And so, yes, it's so beautiful when you give love, it always comes back. And animals are a fantastic way to recover from any kind of trauma, because they help bring you back to the present moment. As you were saying at the beginning, Darcie, coming back to your breath, coming back to presence. Animals teach us presence. They teach us the power of presence. They teach us about the power of just being. How often, like, you see a cat or a dog just chilling, they're just like, and they just want to play. They teach us about play. They teach us about joy. They teach us about, there's so much we can learn from animals, and not just cats or dogs. Of course, we've got horses, cows, sheep, whatever animal, birds. I love just watching birds. I love all animals. There's so much we can learn from animals. And really, at the end of the day, to recover from trauma, a great way, essentially, is to come to love. So whatever that love looks like for you, we're talking about love with animals here, love with our loved ones, with our family, with our friends, sharing love somehow is so, so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, even love yourself.
Yes.
Love yourself. I mean, we as women think that we are doing self-love if we're getting our nails done or we're getting our hair done or things like that. Read a good book. Go for a silent walk. Sit in the park and connect with nature and with things around you. Love yourself. And then you're able to show better love to every single person around you, especially when you're going through grief. Because depending on the level of grief that you're experiencing or where you are at in your grief, we can actually start to burn our people out around us. You know, like they can only be so super supportive for so long. But, once you hit like that year mark, and if you're still very raw in it, your people around you are starting to burn out. They can't fix it, just like you can't fix it. So now they're just kind of taking on all of your pain and not knowing what else to do with it. But if we start loving ourselves and healing through this, we're healthier for ourselves and for everybody else around us as well.
Totally, so important. And one thing I've started to do more regularly now is get massages, to show some self-love. And I tell you what, it feels so good. Even the bad massages feel good, just to have someone moving the moving things around. You know what I mean? I mean, they don't feel as good as the good massages, but
yeah,
but still, even just getting a massage where you're moving things around your body, you're getting the blood flowing, it's so important to have a good massage. Ken would know about this with health, right? How important it is to move, to make sure that we've got flow in our body. If we're 70% water, and you think the earth is 70% water, we are like a microcosm of the macrocosm of the universe, of the world. And what happens when you have rivers that are blocked? And this is where people have all sorts of health issues, when the rivers of our body, our arteries, our veins, etc., when they're blocked, or when we eat crap food that calcifies in our body. And Ken's definitely, he knows much more about this than I do. But when we have blockages in our body, that's when there's no flow. So having massage, I found a great way to build that self-love, to actually, help to look after my body. And one thing that came to me in January, I was doing a plant medicine journey with some mushrooms, actually, mushroom journey. And it's the first time I'd actually done this in a proper environment where it was, a sort of, where I didn't overdose. When I was much younger, I used to do all sorts of crazy things and almost killed myself on mushrooms when I was much younger. But anyway, in January, I did this journey, and a strong message that came to me during that journey was to love every cell in my body. Love every cell in my body. And so last time I was having a bath, I actually was massaging myself from the toes up, right up my body. I was massaging my whole body and putting love into every part of my body. And it was a beautiful feeling. It was just such a simple thing that anyone can do. I'm not talking about playing with yourself here, although it is a kind of playing with yourself, because you're kind of playing, you're kneading your body. But I'm not talking about masturbating. I'm talking about actually giving love to every cell in your body. And I know that sounded a bit, I don't know where I was.
You had to go there. You just had to go there.
If you want to play with yourself and it makes you feel good and it's showing self-love, well, you go and do that too, right? But whatever.
No judgment zone. No judgment zone.
Well, I make fun of her a lot because on these things, because she'll get you'll get a little kinky.
Sometimes I get a little bit cheeky is probably the word. And look, I am in menopause stage, which means I've now paused men for several years, and I'm feeling great about it. But I do have my pets, which I love, and I have no need or desire to be with any man whatsoever currently, or woman for that fact. I'm not feeling like I need to share my love with another human being at this stage of my life, although maybe one day I will. I mean, when I say that, I'm talking about in a sexual way. I have my aging parents who I share a lot of love with. I have some very dear friends I share a lot of love with, and I have my 6 chickens. I have the 2 cats. We have a dog here at the house, and we have 2 water dragons, and we get a lot of birds. We get kookaburras every morning, and there's lots of love to be shared amongst, and I've got my garden, we've got our little veggie garden and all of that. So that's a beautiful way to share love as well with plants. I find plants are beautiful to do. Gardening is another great way. So self-love, back to so what do you do for self-love, Darcie?
Well, self-love for me it's interesting you said that, because gardening is a huge thing for me. I love getting my hands in the dirt. So it's so funny, when my husband and I moved into this house, they had like a little 2-foot by 2-foot garden in the backyard. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, I cannot keep anything alive. Green thumb is not me. Like, that was my grandma. That is not me. I've had him open it up now 3 times the last 16 years. It's like 12 foot by 10 foot now. And recently, this last week, I brought 6 house plants into the house. It's like something to tend to, and it's life And it just felt like our house needed life. It needed rebirth. It needed something different to happen, So things like that. Sleeping in the morning is a really big one for me. Like just allowing yourself the time to wake up slowly, not like hit the snooze button 4 times and now you got to use the dry shampoo and you're running out the door brushing your teeth. It's like that's not self-love. That's just not. Or allowing yourself to stay up a little bit late so you can catch a movie or sit in silence. Sometimes my husband and I will just sit and just be. Sometimes just being quiet. We surround ourselves with noise so we can try to push the other noise out. But sometimes just allowing calm in your life is so good for your entire body and soul.
I love that, Darcie. And in fact, this morning, I was so grateful to be back in my own bed after 9 days of being in Fiji and other beds with God knows how many other people have been in those beds before you, right? Yet alone slept on those sheets. No matter how many times you wash the sheets, I'm sure there's a certain energy that comes from hotel sheets. But anyway, that's another story again. But this morning, I woke up gently. I had my cat there. I cuddled my cat. I did a meditation, had a nice shower. I went and fed the chickens. I put on a good percolated coffee, decent coffee, because Fiji has crap coffee no matter where. I did not have one good coffee in Fiji. As much as I love Fiji and the kava and the cocktails were fantastic, the coffee was crap. So anyway, it was great to come home to good coffee. And, all these little things are great self-love. It's fantastic. And then prayer, of course, is really important, setting your intentions. Ken, what do you do? I know you exercise. What do you do for self-love?
Self-love, I would definitely say self-love for me in this current day and age is, and Darcie, you hit it right on the bullseye, sleeping in. Heck yeah. The days where I get to sleep in a little bit and just not feel guilty about it, that's like the best thing ever. I definitely, Aldwyn, you kind of hit a hot spot there too when you talked about your coffee. I don't do coffee in a coffee maker anymore. I do a French press now. It makes all the difference in the world. It is delicious coffee. I have an organic medium blend coffee that I get. It's a store brand. It's not a major brand either. It's just a generic store brand, but it's organic medium blend coffee, and it's the perfect balance. And it's just so good. It's not too acidy, strong, or anything else. So, I love my coffee in the morning. And then the last thing, I do it like 2 or 3 times a week, depending on my schedule and depending on all the things. My walk/jog. I say walk/jog because I jog intermittently, and it's a very light jog. But I love it. I'm getting in sunlight. I'm getting, in the good for you sun. That is my deeper time with God. It's times where I have prayers and conversations with God that I just kind of feel like while I'm out there, I am way closer to him than when I'm here in my office doing my devotions. And I have sweet times here, but when I'm out there, it's just, yeah. So those are some of the most recent things. And then journaling. Journaling, though, I have to kind of be in the mood to journal. I can't just pick up a journal and just write. I have to be like inspired and in the mood for it, and different things like that. And then when I am, we're talking like 5 or 6 pages in the journal. That's what we're talking about. So those are kind of like all my things. I would say right now the top number one thing is when I'm out there on my walks. That's like my top number one right now.
Yes, there's so much you see when you're walking. There's so much of an environment you see as opposed to when you're cycling, running, or driving past an environment. When you're walking and you go at your own pace, you can stop and you can really appreciate. Sometimes I just appreciate the way that a tree has grown. I look at the branches, like, oh my gosh, look at this extraordinary tree. Or I might just notice a little lizard in a corner, or, there's so much magic to be seen when we just slow down sometimes.
Yeah.
And that self-love can look like slowing down. As you say, both of you said sleeping in. I mean, for me lately, sleeping in has been getting 6 hours sleep a night, which I know is not quite sleeping in. 7.5 hours is really good for me. Very rare will I get over 8 hours sleep a night. It's amazing how little sleep I can live on. However, in saying that, I know it is good to have decent amount of sleep, and there's a whole lot of studies and science around this, getting enough sleep, how important it is for your body. And so I highly recommend that. Also eating nutritious foods, eating whole food, eating, not eating the crap food is another way to show your body self-love, even though sometimes you might want to spoil yourself and have some ice cream or chocolate or, something like that, in moderation. I think, sometimes you can be too prudent about it as well. So I think occasionally if you feel like having ice cream or, dark chocolate's actually not too bad for you, cacao, there's a lot of things that you can have that are actually, sweet, but are actually also good for you, like things like frozen berries with yogurt. I quite enjoy that as a dessert as opposed to ice cream sometimes. So just, making those sort of healthier choices can also feel really good. And notice the energy in your body after you eat certain foods as well. Notice how you feel after you have pizza or pasta versus when you have a salad. Notice how it feels. And some people just love the meat diet, right? Some people just love to have their bit of meat and they don't like salads at all. And so I guess just notice what works for you and your body and do what's right for you. So we do need to start wrapping up the show. Tanya's had a bit of a giggle with us. One to the toilet, one couldn't hear. Ha ha. Yes, exactly. I know. Isn't it's sometimes how life throws curveballs, Tanya? There I was chatting with myself and you. So I'm glad you were there, Tanya, to keep us occupied. And there were a few others joining us. Thank you for.
It's like I had to pick that timing to go. That was just interesting.
Yeah, and then Tanya says, so perfect. Yeah, it's all in divine order, I'm sure. Everything's in divine order. And Tanya says, cats don't count in years. Yes, well, that's right. And cats do have 9 lives. And I'm sure that all our previous pets are hanging around us, still in the spiritual form in another way. So, yeah, thank you for those comments, Tanya. And thank you for everyone who's joined us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Let us know, what have you got out of the show so far? What have you been learning? What do you do to recover from trauma in your life? What are some things that you've noticed have really helped you through your trauma? And in fact, you might be going through trauma right now, and hopefully some things that we've shared have hit home for you and will help from here moving forward as well, because as long as we're alive, we know there will be some trauma at some point. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If you haven't had any trauma so far, then hang in there for the ride, because no doubt there will be some at some stage, right? Now, Darcie, any final words about this topic before we go to how people can connect with you? Thank you, Tanya. Thank you so much.
And just like you said, I mean, if you haven't experienced trauma yet, buckle up, because life just lifes sometimes.
Yes.
But that's why we talk about staying grounded in your healing, because if you get knocked down and you can't get back up, life is going to keep you down. So you are able to connect with me everywhere. I'm literally all over. And I know you're gonna ask me, right? Like what one of my favorite slogans or quotes is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so what my favorite one, and I say it at the end of all of my podcast, is when you are walking with God, healing is always possible.
Oh, amen.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. We've just popped that darcieburtch.com up on the screen as well. DARCIEBURTCH for those on the audio. darcieburtch.com is where you'll connect with Darcie. And what are some ways you work with people, Darcie?
Well, if we're going to do NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, we can work with anything from helping release sadness, grief, hurt, pain. We can work with getting you more motivated, determined. I've helped people let go of sugar cravings and soda, quit smoking. So it's a really cool tool. I'm simply the guide. You're doing the work. So I'm working with you to help reconnect your subconscious mind to your conscious mind.
Beautiful. And you can do that through Zoom, I'd imagine, online?
I can, yes.
Awesome. All right. So people can book in with you there. Go to darcieburtch.com and support our beautiful guest today. Amazing. Thank you so much, Darcie. And Ken, how can people connect with you, my friend?
You can connect with me through going to www.masteryweightloss.com/connect. It is a customized connect page that I made. It's very simple, very easy to get on and navigate through. There are 4 buttons on that page to connect with me on. Right now, I'm actually giving away my 3 secrets. I have lost 62.5 pounds, and I have kept it off for 7+ years now without a diet and having that be sustainable. Right now, I'm giving away my 3 secrets to help you not only lose that weight, but feel energized and get healthy without starving or dieting. In just 3 one-on-one sessions with me, I expose the 3 biggest lies that are keeping people sick, stuck, and overweight, because that's how that industry makes money. And I'm showing them how they can fuel their body God's way so they can finally break free and keep the weight off for life sustainably, like I've been able to do. And so on that connect page, www.masteryweightloss.com/connect, the very first button you will see on that page is a button to join my mini educational bootcamp, which is where those 3 sessions are. And there's another button on there to book a free strategy call with me. Maybe you're not sure what your next steps are. Well, get on a Zoom call with me. Let's unpack what your next steps could be moving forward. And then there's a button to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Lastly, there's a button in there to find me on Facebook. So that is how you can connect with me. And, you know, I've been looking through some of these quotes that I have on here on the screen, and there's one in particular that really sticks out to me. And it's by somebody I literally have never heard of before. It's by Bessel van der Kolk. I think that's how you would pronounce that last name. I have a habit of slaughtering last names. So
sounds exactly how you pronounce it, Ken.
But it's just a real simple quote, and I just find it so powerful. The body keeps the score. And I think that is very powerful, because if you're holding in trauma, if you're holding in hurt, if you're holding in these things, the body does keep score. It ends up getting into your cells. It ends up getting into like all the things inside. It ends up programming new neural pathways. It gets in. And so I find that quote just so powerful. The body keeps the score. So just be careful with holding on and not letting loose, because that can come back and bite you so severely. Even with some of the stories that we've shared here on today's show, just be very careful, you guys.
Yes, beautiful. Love that, Ken. And as we said earlier, the healing is in the feeling, and better out than in. Better out than in. If it needs to come out, let it out. You know, I've had speaker coaches over the years that have said, don't cry on stage, right? And they've been really adamant about, do not cry on stage. And there's many times I have cried on stage, and I've been hounded for it by certain speaker coaches. And nowadays, I actually teach people speaking coaching now myself. And I say, well, if there's tears that need to come, let them come, you know, let it out. You know, you don't want to be you don't want to be a complete sobbing mess where you can't talk, ideally. But if you have tears that come up that need to come up, let them out. You know, that's my opinion on that. So just because we have mentors that we've paid a lot of money to doesn't mean we have to take their advice all the time. That's just their advice for what they know. And that's perfectly fine for what they know. It doesn't mean we have to go along with that. And so I totally disagree with that. Do not show emotion on stage. I disagree completely. If you feel like crying, let it out. So there you go. In line with what you were just saying. Thank you so much, Ken. And for those who want to connect with me, go to linktree/Aldwyn. I help leaders be seen, heard, and known through mass media exposure. So that's through publicity, through book projects, speaking, through a whole lot of different ways. We help you get out, be seen, heard, and known. So just go there, linktree/Aldwyn. We just finished an amazing impact change retreat. We had, and people are already asking about the next one. So there will be another retreat coming up at some stage, our next impact change retreat, which is all about amplifying your impact while nourishing your mind, body, and soul. So that's a retreat. We've also got the Fear to Freedom book project coming out. Here's a Fear to Freedom book 1 came out last year, and we are now gathering authors. We are bringing together, we've had quite a few people say they're interested in coming into our next book. So we're just at a stage where we're finalizing our authors for the next book. So if you're interested in sharing your Fear to Freedom story in that book, then reach out to myself or Dame Rita Rose in Sydney, who I'm collaborating with on the next book, and let's chat about that. And I'd love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. We've had over 313,000 views, and it's now like 996 subscribers. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel, because once it gets past 1,000, we can actually monetize it. And yes, I have had some shadow banning on YouTube. Yes, I have, because certain content was obviously too true for school. And obviously, you know, when it gets censored, there's nothing to hide. Why the censorship, right? So anyway, that's a whole other story. But that's that. And then my quote today, this is from Walter Anderson. It says, "Bad things do happen. How I respond to them defines my character and the quality of my life. I can choose to sit in perpetual sadness, immobilized by the gravity of my loss, or I can choose to rise from the pain and treasure the most precious gift I have, and that is life itself." Right? Isn't that beautiful? And while, you know, it's interesting, it says bad things do happen. Well, I kind of think, well, everything's in divine order. How we see it, you know, we can see it as bad, or we can see it as, okay, how is this happening for me? What is the learning in this? How has this situation made me stronger? How has this situation helped me appreciate life and the people in my life even more now, for example, right? There's always pros where there's what we see as cons, right? There's the yin yang of life. There's the dark and the light. It's all about what we choose to focus on will grow. So that's my quote today. And thank you for your lovely comments. Thank you. Let us know, for those joining us live, how have you found the show? Tanya's put a lovely comment in here. I'm just looking for it amongst. Here we go. She says, "Thank you, 3. Loved your conversation. Enjoyed it." Thank you so much, Tanya. So grateful that you could be with us. What did you get from the show today? Let us know. It was so great. Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. Oh, the retreat. Yes, Tanya was at the retreat with her pulse electromagnetic field devices. They were awesome. If you want to know more about that, reach out to me as well. That's amazing. And the retreat was next level. It was phenomenal. Awesome people. Thank you for everyone who participated in that retreat, if you're tuning in right now. Any final words, Ken or Darcie, before we wrap up the show?
Darcie, you?
Oh, thank you. My only final thought is, as we continue to go through all of the future days ahead of us, just remember that you are so important, you are so loved, and you are so deserving of all of the good things that God has to offer on this earth.
Thank you, Darcie. It's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Love that. Ken, final words from you.
I'll leave everyone with this. So it doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter how big your situation is. It doesn't matter how crazy raging the storm is around you. There's always hope. Whether you feel him or not, God is by your side. And maybe you're not a Christ follower. Well, God still wants to connect with you. He still wants to be a part of your life. But if you are a Christian and you're listening to this, know that regardless on whether you feel him there or not, the truth and the Bible, the Word of God, tells us he is there with you. You're not always going to feel him. And I know that's frustrating. We rely a lot on our feelings too much sometimes, and not enough on the actual truth. And the truth says that he is with you. He will be with you. He is our refuge. He is your strength. Be still and know that I am God. That's from Psalms 46. All right, that's it.
Beautiful, Ken. And the truth will set you free here on Total Truth Show. Truth will set you free. Tanya says her devices help grieving. Yes, they're awesome. Anything you can do to lift your frequency, I'd say go and do it. If it feels good, do it. Thank you so much, Ken and Darcie. Great show. Absolutely love this. Please share the love, those that have joined us here on socials. Share the love. Let us know what you got out of this. What are your tips to help recover from trauma as well. Let us know in the comments. Let's share the love there. Let's connect on all our socials. And final comment from me is you are loved, you belong, and you are good enough. Okay, you are loved, you belong, and you are good enough. And sending you all so much love today with my little love heart. Sending you lots of love. Have a glorious day or night wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you next time on Total Truth Show. Thank you so much for joining us. See you then. Bye. See you. Bye.